Wait. Can I just ask, hold on, you work in the Senate? I guess I just don't believe you.
Republican Senator Ted Cruz went on Tucker Carlson's show on Fox News last night to beg for forgiveness. And it was such a sad display that the word pathetic actually trended on Twitter. Now, before I get to this clip, I'm going to show you what this was all about. Why Ted Cruz had to go on Tucker's show to apologize. It's because Ted Cruz said this.
We are approaching a solemn anniversary this week, and it is an anniversary of a violent terrorist attack on the Capitol, where we saw the men and women of law enforcement demonstrate incredible courage, incredible bravery, risk their lives to defend the men and women who serve in this Capitol.
Now, if you aren't completely insane, you may be wondering what the problem is. What did Ted Cruz say there that was so offensive to conservatives? Well, he called the Capitol rioters terrorists. He said it was a terrorist attack. So apparently this was so offensive to those on the right that he had to go on Tucker Carlson's show to apologize.
So I guess there are a lot of dumb people in the Congress. You're not one of them. I think you're smarter than I am. And you never use words carelessly. And yet you called this a terror attack when by no definition was it a terror attack. That's a lie.
All right, I have to cut it here just for a second to show you just how full of shit Tucker Carlson is. Here he is in 2020 talking about Black Lives Matter protesters.
If the rioters were Saudi nationals, it would be very clear that there is nothing local about what we're watching. We would understand immediately that it's terrorism.
No, that was not Tucker talking about the Capitol riot. That was Tucker talking about Black Lives Matter protesters, showing you just how full of shit he is. But anyways, let's get to the rest of this clip where Ted Cruz is just completely pathetic.
You told that lie on purpose, and I'm wondering why you did.
Well, Tucker, thank you for having me on. When you aired your episode last night, I sent you a text shortly thereafter and said, listen, I'd like to go on because the way I phrased things yesterday, it was sloppy and it was frankly dumb.
And I don't buy that. Whoa. I don't buy that. Look, I've known you a long time, since before you went to the Senate. You were a Supreme Court contender. You take words as seriously as any man who's ever served in the Senate. And every word you repeated that phrase. I do not believe that you used that accidentally. I just don't.
So, Tucker, as a result of my sloppy phrasing, it's caused a lot of people to misunderstand what I meant. Let me tell you what I meant to say. What I was referring to are the limited number of people who engaged in violent attacks against police officers. Now, I think you and I both agree that if you assault a police officer, you should go to jail. A lot of people have misunderstood that comment.
Wait a second, but hold on. What you just said doesn't make sense. So if somebody assaults a cop, he should be charged and go to jail. I couldn't agree more. We have said that for years. But that person's still not a terrorist. How many people have been charged with terrorism on January 6th? Like, why'd you use that word? You're playing into the other side's characterization that, as Joe Kent just explained, allows them to define an entire population as foreign combatants. And you know that.
That being said, Tucker, I agree with you. It was a mistake to say that yesterday, and the reason is what you just said, which is we've now had a year of Democrats in the media twisting words and trying to say that all of us are terrorists.
Wait. Can I just ask, hold on, you work in the I guess I just don't believe you. And I mean that with respect, because I have such respect for your acuity and your precision, and I've seen it on display. I've covered you as a reporter. I know how you speak.
If you commit violence against cops, you should go to jail.
Yeah, but you're not a terrorist. You know, you're not. You're a guy who assaulted a cop. Okay, so there's a legal difference, as you well know, better than I do, since you were actually in the running for the Supreme Court.
It really is incredible to see Tucker Carlson moralizing over the use of the word terrorist when he threw it around when it came to Black Lives Matter protesters, but an attack on the Capitol, not terrorism? Amazing. Also, equally amazing, of course, Ted Cruz just completely falling apart, groveling to Tucker Carlson here. Just an embarrassing display. He got attacked from all sides online. No one likes Ted Cruz. No one liked him before. Less people like him now. Let me tell you, before I get to some reaction online here, why Cruz did what he did, and also why Tucker did what he did. So, for Ted Cruz, it's all about power. It's always been about power. He is one of the most phony politicians in Washington. He is so incredibly phony and sociopathic. So this was his attempt in calling this a terrorist, an act of terrorism. That was his attempt to try and appeal to voters that aren't completely insane. So trying to, spread out his base a little bit. But as a Republican in this day and age, that's not going to work for you. If you want to become a Republican president, which clearly Ted Cruz still wants to do, you have to bet completely on the right-wing base and bet on voter suppression on the other side, which is why they are engaging right now. Republican lawmakers all across the country, various states, engaging in voter suppression laws, because that is their only hope in the future, is to have less people vote and them win, because their base comes out regardless. So this is ultimately the line he is trying to ride here, but he is playing the old game. As I said, you can't win now by trying to appeal to a large swath of voters. You have to be as crazy as possible. That's how Trump won. So, and also in addition to that, you need to have a Democratic candidate on the other side who doesn't excite people. So that was Hillary. Biden got lucky because Trump was such a disaster that I think anybody in 2020 could have won against Donald Trump. But going into the future, the Democratic Party has to be aware that they have to have forget a real economic message. You have to actually now, with the power that you have, deliver something to people, or you're screwed, which is why the Build Back Better agenda, I think, is so important in expanding Medicare, in expanding the child tax credit, and having a real investment into the climate crisis. You have to do something. Otherwise, people are not going to come out to vote for you. Democrats win when they get disillusioned, typical non-voters out to vote. Republicans win when the vote is suppressed. Now, let's get to also why Tucker is doing what he's doing here. I don't think so. There's two potential reasons. Tucker either also has presidential aspirations himself, which I think is incredibly scary. But if that isn't the case, he clearly has some other candidate in mind. He doesn't care about Ted Cruz's career, so he's happy to drill him over and over again during this discussion. So, whatever the reasoning is, clearly Tucker has no interest in Ted Cruz's career. So I think that's obvious. But now let's get to, well, just briefly, I got to mention this. Cruz led 11 GOP senators challenging the Biden win over Trump. So that was on January 2nd, 2021, just a few days before the insurrection. I think Ted Cruz, part of the reason also why I think he's trying to call it a terrorist act now, he's trying to remove himself from this situation, get a little distance from this to try and either save his own ass if he is part of the investigation, or also, of course, try to appeal to a larger base, as I said. But, it even came out today, last night. A former aide said Ted Cruz ignored her January 6th advice to be the adult in the room. So all this is coming out. It's clear Ted Cruz was aware he was doing the wrong thing because, again, for him, it's all about power. It's all about trying to appeal to that Trump base. But he, I guess, forgot that yesterday when he called it an act of terrorism. But now let's get to some reactions online. So Adam Kinzinger, a Republican congressperson, said here, "Wow, Ted Cruz, that is one of the most pathetic things I've ever seen. He is one of the only Republican lawmakers in Washington that I guess is not 100% crazy, acknowledges that Biden won the election. That isn't to give him credit. Acknowledging reality, you don't get credit for acknowledging reality. But just to point out that that's why he's going after Cruz." Palmer report here saying Ted Cruz is flip-flopped and caved like the pathetic, spineless loser that he is. Suki's mom here saying, "God, Ted Cruz lives just about the most pathetic existence of anyone I've ever seen," which is why the word pathetic trended on Twitter. So everybody calling him pathetic to the point that this actually trended. And a reminder of how pathetic Ted Cruz is back in 2016 after Trump called out his wife or made some rude comments about his wife. Once Trump won the primary, Ted Cruz turned around, supported him, and even did phone banking, and this incredible meme came out of it. Ted Cruz sat on the phone with with the Trump Pence sign behind him. Just amazing. And to show you that this was very intentional, it wasn't an accident. He didn't call this an act of terrorism by accident. It was put on his website. So they put the statement up, calling it an act of terrorism. Tucker was right to point out that Ted Cruz is very calculated, and definitely calculated here. So it was just a mistake on his part in terms of what he desires. Cruz, of course, desires power. So it was a mistake of him to do that. Now I think if there was any hope at all of him being a presidential, nominee for the GOP, which I don't think there was before, but regardless, I think that is definitely dead now. Tucker, in addition to Cruz's own words, clearly have killed that. but it was just amazing to see how far down Cruz can go. I mean, I can't imagine him getting any more pathetic after what he did when Trump attacked his wife and then turned around to endorse him. And now this. Ted Cruz is not only one of the most sociopathic people in Washington, he's also one of the most pathetic.